So most of my subscribers know I'm not a movie review channel or anything, like that. I sometimes review movies, and I thought, I've seen a movie about America and it's sort of about American history and politics. So why don't I just put a review out there, because, I've done the same with something like Knock Down the House on Netflix, but this is more, a proper film. So, last night I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by Quentin Tarantino, of course, starring Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio and Margot Robbie, of course, and loads of nice little cameos from people like Timothy Olyphant, or, other people like Al Pacino, Michael Madsen, people like that. And I just want to get into, how I feel about this movie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have just my general feelings, spoiler-free, and then I'm going to get into spoilers, because I know in America this movie has been out since last month, where it only came out last week in the UK. So if you have not seen this film, make sure to, listen closely to when I will start talking about spoilers. So first impressions is, I really, really like this film. It doesn't have a traditional format, there isn't a real, narrative thread, I guess. It's just loads of little events all happening, and then the story kind of comes to a head at the end, and that's the way it goes. But I think it's really carried by Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. They're so, so good, and they're so funny, but they're so funny in different ways. Like, Leonardo DiCaprio is basically an actor who stars in various westerns, but he's a bit of a has-been, and he's looking for his next gig. And Al Pacino is this sort of, I guess it's like an agent who comes in, he's like, you can go act in Italy in these new spaghetti westerns, because we all know the Italians towards the end of the 60s started to make the best westerns, Sergio Leone and, people like that. And Leonardo DiCaprio is like, I don't want to star in Italian movies, that's bad, it's like a dead end for an actor. But it's basically showing his life as he sort of plays his other roles. He plays the villain because he's basically a stepping stone for up-and-coming actors. So, minor spoilers coming up, there's some really good scenes where he's playing these villainous characters. You might have seen it in the trailer, like he has a mustache and the hat and the hair. And it's just such a good performance, because when he is acting within his acting in the film, playing another role, it's almost, actually really good, but it borders on cheesy to sort of remind you this isn't Leonardo DiCaprio playing a character, this is Leonardo DiCaprio's character playing another character. That's what's sort of interesting about this film. And there's loads of great scenes like that. Brad Pitt is just sort of this like carefree stunt double. He doesn't actually really work much as a stunt double anymore, and there's a super entertaining little flashback as to why he doesn't. And it's just sort of the whole vibe of the film is so good, like the sets and just the feel of LA and the 60s. Just some things like, Leonardo DiCaprio using a blender, using sort of like a recorder to play himself, to learn his lines, the cars, the radio, the cinemas. It's all sort of like this love letter to, I guess, Hollywood in a lot of ways, and this era, which is such a, golden era of film. And it's such a nice vibe to it. Like, I really enjoy watching this, and I enjoy sort of, losing myself in this world for the 2 hours and a half, maybe more, it exists. But what is good about that, because on its own, it could be just a super enjoyable little black comedy, or I guess it's not even black comedy, it's just a comedy. But on top of that, you have the whole Manson stuff in the background, because Sharon Tate is a character. So in the back of your mind, you're thinking, while I'm having a good time with all these characters and I'm having fun, I'm super invested in them, they're so hilarious. At the back of my mind, because Sharon Tate is in this and Roman Polanski, I'm thinking something bad is going to happen by the end of this film. And I won't spoil how the film ends, but that sense of dread sort of hangs over the whole film, which I really like this, because it plays on your expectations. When kind of know what's going to happen to one of the characters, in your head you're thinking about all the time, how is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? Which way is it going to happen? How are characters, how will they be involved? And I think a good comparison is something like, which is a weird one, Red Dead Redemption 2, because in that game, you know how this game ends, sort of. You know where a lot of these characters end up. You know what happens to them. You know who's not there in the next game. You know what happens to them in the next game. So while you're playing it and you're having a good time with your gang in Red Dead Redemption 2, you're thinking something is going to go wrong at some point, and I'm trying to work out how it's going to go wrong and how these people are involved and how I will get to the situation of the first game. And it does a really good job in subverting your expectations, and I think Once Upon a Time does that in a similar way. And I just really like that sort of style. It's not traditional by Tarantino, a lot of his films aren't traditional, but there's sort of like a clear, you know, I guess trajectory of the film, where this one doesn't really have one. But yeah, without spoiling too much, great performances, great little cameos. Tarantino clearly loves this stuff. Like, it's just so great, you know, watching Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt sit on a sofa, watching an episode of Leonardo DiCaprio's show while talking about it and having like a beer and stuff. Their chemistry is so good, and they're two legendary actors. You know, we talk about a lot of legendary actors like Marlon Brando and, like, you know, Robert Redford. I think these two are going to be two of the big ones in the future, because they're just, you know, on their own, they've starred in so much great stuff and they are just so talented. But together, I just really like them. They play off each other so well. And yeah, like I was saying, they're so funny in completely different ways. Like, Brad Pitt's humour is kind of like, he's carefree, he's along for the ride, he just does what he wants and he's not really bothered about anything. Where Leonardo DiCaprio is super wound up tight, stressed about his legacy, stressed about his career. And it's just a nice sort of, you know, they bounce off each other. And it's more like, you know, Wolf of Wall Street, when he gets a bit angry and hysterical, that is the sort of thing he's channeling here. Where Brad Pitt, I couldn't really say what the vibe is. Kind of new for him. I haven't seen all his movies, but like from what I've seen, it's nothing really. It's more like, you know, I get the sort of like a stoner vibe. And yeah, you know, that is my general impressions on the film. I don't want to spoil it here. So if you have watched it, let's talk about spoilers. If you haven't watched it, please stop watching now. Come back later, and then you can listen to me spoil the whole film for you. Or, you know, if you don't care, you're never going to see this film, come and listen to me, you know, just talk about things like the ending, for example. So if you're still here, you want to know the ending and you want the spoilers. So, you know, obviously let's talk about that ending. Like I'm saying, the film plays with your expectations. The Manson cult don't actually show up at Sharon Tate's home, even though throughout the whole film it's playing with that. It's like, this is the date that you know that she's murdered. Here's the time. They're going to the restaurant. Here are all the friends she's with. But instead, because they have a chance encounter with Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt, they should go to their house instead. Because he played, you know, a character in I forgot what it was called, but the Western, but those two people in the Manson cult liked. So they go to kill the people who taught them to kill, is what they say in the car. And then that last scene is just absolutely hilarious. And I said to my girlfriend when we came out, it feels like Tarantino is like, this is what I want to do to the people who murdered Sharon Tate. This is what we collectively want to do. The whole film, based in my opinion, is showing what a nice person Sharon Tate was and what a real person she was. And I think that in a lot of ways, that's why Margot Robbie doesn't actually speak that much. So, you know, so we don't think this is Margot Robbie playing Sharon Tate. We're thinking this is Sharon Tate. You know, that's why the impression of her is still there. We still think it's her rather than another actress, I think. And then Brad Pitt, the dog, Leonardo DiCaprio and his wife just taking it out on the Manson cult. It's so over the top and so brutal. And I love the foreshadowing of the dog. You know, he's feeding the dog this dog food throughout the whole film. Dog food that has the flavouring of, like, I don't know, squirrel or raccoon. So he's more, you know, trained to be an attack dog. I think it even says on the can of dog food, attack dog. And so that plays into it nice when he attacks him. Brad Pitt's character is obviously pretty good in the fight because we see him face off with Bruce Lee. We know he killed his wife as well, or is pretty much hinted he did. And I think he was also either fought in World War II or fought in the Korean War, because they say he's a war hero. So he's pretty good in the fight, and he takes down a lot of these cultists. And when he's just smashing that girl's head, oh my god, it was so hilarious. And stamping obviously on that Manson cult guy's head as well. And then obviously the dog just goes to town on the other girl's face. She comes out screaming, and then Leonardo DiCaprio goes for the flamethrower from his old film and burns her. Oh my god, it was so hilarious. It was so funny. And I do think it's like Quentin Tarantino collectively with us showing, you know, what we wish could have happened to these people who, you know, murdered an innocent, talented actress that, you know, that was Sharon Tate. And it kind of plays into, you know, Quentin Tarantino's style of changing history a bit, because, you know, Inglourious Basterds, Hitler obviously was assassinated and the war was over way before it actually ended and everything. But yeah, I really like that, and that's the ending for you. And I also like the ending because it ties into the start when Leonardo DiCaprio's character is saying, you know, I live next to Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate, I could be in the next Roman Polanski film. And then at the end, he gets in with Sharon Tate because she says, you know, want to come up? because after all the commotion with the Manson cult, and then he gets to go to an apartment, and then you think this is a new beginning for him, because before that he's saying, I'm going to have to sell my house, you know, while I went to Italy and made some money, I just can't sustain my livelihood here, me and the wife are going to have to move. But now you think after all this stuff, his career is going to be on the up, and you know, he will hopefully make it and stuff. And yeah, it's just a really nice ending. And when you go back and watch it now, you can enjoy the film without the sense of dread, because the whole time you're thinking, these people are going to murder Sharon Tate and it's going to be awful and I'm going to have to see it. And somehow Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio's character are going to tie into it. I thought initially, because Brad Pitt went to the Manson ranch and beat one of them up, they were going to come looking for him and by accident go and kill her and the people in there. But it didn't actually work out that way. Other parts I like, because we're in spoiler territory now. You know, I like the little scene when he went to the Manson, you know, ranch. You know, him and that girl had quite good chemistry, didn't they? Even though it was pretty, you know, messed up that she was like, underage and offering him like, you know, favours. What else did I like? So yeah, Al Pacino I really liked in this role, because a lot of the time with older actors it seems like they're trying to play younger, but I think Al Pacino really played, you know, with his age for once. I feel like he was playing his age, which is, you know, is he 80 or nearly 80? And I really liked him in this role as this guy who was trying to push the spaghetti western on Leonardo DiCaprio's character. And who else? Like little cameos, like I said, Timothy Olyphant. He was playing the little western guy. That little girl in that little western segment was amazing. I love that scene where he's acting and, you know, she says it's the best acting she's ever seen. It's such a good scene. I just love that. And when he's messing up his lines so bad because he got so drunk the night before and he's just trashing his trailer, I find that so hilarious as well. He's really good in this. Leonardo DiCaprio can be a really funny actor. And I kind of want to talk about the Bruce Lee, you know, scene. I did like that fight scene with Brad Pitt's character. I don't see it as too offensive. I mean, like, maybe you could see it as people laughing at Asian stereotypes because of the way he does the high-pitched voice with the, you know, the martial arts. I didn't really see too much of a problem with it. I feel Quentin Tarantino just makes fun of a lot of things. And I think if we start saying we can't make fun of something like that it's just like, what can we make fun of anymore? And, you know, people like Sam Jackson have come out and defended him for things to do with that type of thing before. And I think, yeah, I thought it was fine. Personally, I know Bruce Lee's daughter didn't like it. And then people said, you know, Bruce Lee was such a champion for Chinese Americans and, you know, the Asian cinema and things like that. Well, you know, it's not taking him too seriously. Do you know what I mean? Like, the same way, I know it's completely different, but the way they have Hitler in Inglourious Bastards and stuff, it's obviously nothing like how Hitler was in real life. It's super exaggerated, and obviously he's getting killed. So, you know, I don't feel there was much of a problem with it. But yeah, overall, you know, my overall thoughts, I just really like this film. Just, you know, I like going along for the ride. I could watch these great actors with a Tarantino script. I could watch that for 12 hours. You know, it flew by. It didn't feel like it's, you know, time. I loved going through LA. It reminded me of films like Chinatown, where you just get such a good sense of the place and the sense of the city. As someone who's never been to America or been to LA, I just love films like that, and it really lets you sink in to the world and like the radio and the songs. And what I like about Quentin Tarantino, I think my music knowledge is pretty good, especially in this era. I didn't recognise a lot of these songs. I knew some of the artists, but I didn't recognise these songs. I think that's something he always does well. He brings a lot of new songs to light, because it could be easy to go for your Elvises, Beatles, Rolling Stones, some of the more mainstream ones, or even the mainstream songs not from the big artists. But he didn't go that way, and it feels really offensive, because it reminds you, you know, like we have all these songs in this present year that, you know, in 50 years' time, people probably won't remember them. Do you know what I mean? There's so many songs out. And I guess that happened in the 60s as well. It's the same with the movies, like the Sharon Tate and Dean Martin. I've never heard that movie, and I love movies. And it just does such a good job of getting you into this Hollywood culture, and it just is so obviously loves it. You know, I loved it when Leonardo DiCaprio was starring in these spaghetti westerns, like spoofing Sergio Leone and all these rubbish, like fake James Bond rip-off films, and his like TV series. I just love that stuff, and it's clear he loves the culture in terms of TV and film and music, and it's just such a nice blend. And it's just such a good script. I was laughing so much. Complaints, I don't really have too many complaints. I would say sometimes when they're swearing, they overemphasize it a bit, and that kind of bugged me. Like, it comes out a bit more natural in his other films. I don't know if that was a conscious choice. Yeah, other than that, you know, two of my favourite actors given great performances, lots of nice little cameos, a culture and a time period I really, really love. Maybe one thing, I guess, there isn't too much, and I don't, you know, obviously maybe he's trying to show how white Hollywood was. There's not really any characters, I guess, from the African American community, or there isn't any main characters from the Hispanic community, really. That might be the point of the film, I don't know. I don't know, maybe I would like to see that side of Hollywood a bit, but maybe the point was this Hollywood is for white people, I guess. Maybe that was the point. So I'm not going to read too much into it. I need to maybe watch some more interviews of him, because I know he's not bad for stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Like Sam Jackson says it, Django, Hateful Eight, they deal with a lot of these issues, don't they? Like the legacy of, you know, the American Civil War and slavery and things like that. So I don't think he's bad for stuff like that. I just would like to hear his explanation of it, because you see Hispanic people as like valets in car parks, you know, working in the cinema and stuff. I guess that might be the point of it. But overall, you know, let me know what you guys thought of the film. I really, really enjoyed it. I want to go see it again, actually, just to take it in a bit more. The soundtrack's really good, so check that out. So the soundtrack, basically, they've done it. If you listen to it in an order, it's like listening to a radio station, complete with like adverts, announcements of the weather, and it's really, really cool. So go check that out. If you want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, follow me at The Cavernacle. Thank you to everyone who's a patron. I really appreciate it, and the numbers have bumped up recently. Some people, I think, have increased their pledges, and some new people have joined. So I just appreciate you all so much. I'm saving a lot of that money because I'm trying to buy like some new backdrops and stuff. At the moment, I'm in my girlfriend's house, so this is why it's not actually my own home. But hopefully you get some new equipment soon. If you want to read some of my writing, check out the Cavernacle WordPress. I might actually write a review for this when I get some time, you know, in my own time. Maybe when I go on holiday, I'll write something. And yeah, so if you made it this far, thank you for watching, and please subscribe to the channel and like the video. And until next time, see you guys later.